Welcome to Pieces for My Puzzle. I'm your host, Nikki Ship, and I'm excited to be sharing with you my life with a son on the spectrum. This podcast is for anyone who is looking for quick tips and perspective, but most of all, for hope and inspiration. So sit back, relax, and let's put the pieces together. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Pieces for My Puzzle. I'm your host, Nikki Ship. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you haven't had a chance to tune into any of our past episodes, please do. We have some wonderful, fabulous information, and I am especially excited this year to be kicking off 2026 with our guest today, Miss Nancy Ferraro. Nancy is an accomplished author and estate planning attorney based in Palm Beach, Florida. She is an award-winning writer of the memoir, When the Bough Breaks, a deeply moving account of her journey raising a child from Romania, filled with heartbreak, triumph, and unflinching honesty. Nancy's work has been recognized nationally, earning her accolades such as the 2022 National Writing Competition Award. In addition to her writing, Nancy practices as an estate and trust attorney, where she combines her legal expertise with her passion for helping others. Known for her empathetic approach, she often shares her life experiences to inspire hope and shed light on complex issues. Nancy is currently working on her second memoir and continues to contribute books and periodicals across the country. When she's not writing or practicing law, Nancy dedicates her time to empowering others through her stories and professional guidance. Her unique blend of resilience, authenticity, and expertise makes her a truly inspiring guest. Please welcome Nancy to the show today. Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Nikki. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. I've been so excited to have you on the show ever since we spoke. I know we talked about this instant connection between the two of us, and I was so excited to get your book and have you on the show today. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is an honor.
I'm so excited. So I just kind of want to jump right in and talk about your book, When the Bough Breaks. It's such a powerful story. Can you share what inspired you to write it and what your readers are going to be able to take away from your book?
Well, we adopted a child from Romania when we
Mm-hmm.
thought that Romania was trying to join the European Union and our reports were all normal.
Mm-hmm.
And when George arrived in the suburbs of New Jersey, he was anything but.
Mm-hmm.
George came as a feral child. He was literally a wild animal in the body of a boy. He suffers from a host of disabilities, including fetal alcohol syndrome, which makes children abnormally violent. He has
Mm-hmm.
attachment disorder. He has a low IQ. He had anoxia at birth, which is lack of oxygen to the brain, so his
Okay.
IQ is very limited, along with a host of other disabilities. It's just as long as your arm.
Mm-hmm.
So, needless to say, we got plunged into this nightmare without any warning, without any preparation. And after a decade of the most extreme violence from a child that you can imagine, we finally made the decision to institutionalize him, which
Okay.
I thought was going to be horrible. Turns out it's really very cool. Group homes are a house in a neighborhood and they have
Mm-hmm.
24-hour staff.
A community,
And when
yeah.
I found us all vertical, I felt an obligation to shed light, share hope, because when our children have troubles and we can't solve them,
Mm-hmm.
and especially mothers, not only do we blame ourselves, society blames us.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's wrong because nobody gets help if we don't throw back the mantle of shame and
Mm-hmm.
actually reach out to each other and to services and get help for our children and for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And how old was George when he came to you? Was he a baby
He,
or how old was he?
he was 4
Okay.
and he was so adorable. And actually, he looked at that time like I spit him out of my mouth. I had people, strangers, arguing with me. You didn't adopt that child. You gave birth to George. And
Sweet.
yeah, so that was interesting.
Yeah, and I'm sure it was so, like you said, very unexpected. I mean, you make this decision to adopt this beautiful child and bring this child here, and I'm sure you felt like there were so many other decisions all of a sudden that were going to reshape your life that you didn't even realize you were going to get thrown into. I'm assuming.
Well, exactly. I
Yeah.
thought I was giving my older son a little brother,
Mm-hmm.
and that was so the opposite of what I brought into our home.
Yeah.
And yes, for a very long time, our lives were an exercise in survival
Mm-hmm.
because, wham, you're hit in the face with this.
Right.
And frankly, there was a long time of denial, which is a fun place to live,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. It depends on how long you stay on that island, but yeah, it's the island of denial is what I like to call it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that doesn't get you anywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
So sooner or later, you have to have a meeting with yourself and the
Right.
powers that be and say, okay, what are we going to do about this? I unfortunately went on a hunt for the cure
Mm-hmm.
because when you read a medical report that says delay,
Mm-hmm.
in our parlance every day, I'm not a doctor,
Right.
delay to me meant, oh, he'll recover from that. He'll catch up. I'll
Yeah.
love it out of him.
Right.
And the first neurologist that I saw put me straight
Yeah.
because when you hear delay, it's a permanent disability.
Yeah.
And that's when the bottom falls out of your world, right? Because you're not
Right.
going to find a cure.
Right. It's just delayed. And then, yeah. And that Drayson has a secondary diagnosis of global developmental delay as well. So I think I had that misconception initially in the beginning too. Like, oh, he'll catch up. It's just a delay. He'll catch up. And he's made a lot of wonderful strides. But I think, that delay will always be there. So I think when you come to that terms with that and you realize that it is kind of mislabeled in my opinion as well. Cause you just think, oh, it'll get sorted and we'll figure out how to catch up, you know?
Oh, yes. And the doctor shopping is real,
Oh,
right?
yes.
So
Yes.
I went through 4 or 5 psychiatrists, neurologists, and I dismissed each one consecutively as a quack
Yeah.
because they weren't giving the answer that I wanted to hear.
Right.
And then finally, when we found Dr. Federici, who is the leading expert in Eastern European adoption,
Mm-hmm.
and he sat me down and said, you've got a life sentence on your hands. That's the moment
Mm-hmm.
that you realize you have to adjust your expectations. Your life will never be what you thought it would be. It's never going to look like Norman Rockwell. In fact, Norman Rockwell's home didn't look like Norman Rockwell, right?
Right.
But there's no chance.
Right.
And that shift is what really is the defining moment when you realize you have to step up to this.
Mm-hmm.
This is not ever going to be what you expected, but what do you do?
Right. Right.
With
Well,
others.
and you and I had a conversation, when we initially talked, I remember we talked a lot about, becoming your child's best advocate, the advocacy piece of that. And I think it's when you do step out of that denial, you realize, like you said, where that's going to be, that it might not necessarily change. Or there'll be improvements, but this is this is it. Like he's always going to stay to some degree this way, right?
Right.
And we talked about the importance of you being your child's best advocate. I always felt like I had to start tuning into my intuition. But, what do you feel is maybe a strategy or a thought process that maybe parents can use to step into that role effectively? Because we talked about that block, right? How it's so hard to go from the stage of denial and maybe hurt and all of these waves of emotions into okay, I'm not only this person's parent, I need to be an advocate. I need to speak for them. So, do you have any advice for parents on that?
I do. And the advice that I have comes from my life experience, right?
Right.
So you're always grieving. And I always said that if someone died, it would be easier because you get over the grief. But
Right.
every day that there's no miracle, it's another death,
Right.
right? So I start with the first very important pillar
Mm-hmm.
of being your child's best advocate because we all know now love's not enough.
Right.
But advocacy is love in motion.
Yes.
And that's the most
Exactly.
sacred thing you can do for your child. But for me, the most important thing was to sit with the feelings,
Yeah.
acknowledge the feelings,
Yeah.
because you're allowed to feel what you feel, right?
Right.
You have to come to terms with this is hard.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's impossibly hard. And
Yep.
no amount of love can
Yeah.
override the burnout and the grief and the rage.
Yeah. It's very,
And there
very
were
true.
times, it's true. And there were times when I would sit in my car after IEP meetings and just sob.
Yeah. Me too. Yeah. Me
Not
too.
because I was told no, but because I was so tired of always having to ask for
Right.
what George needed, to beg, to conduct his IEP meetings, and they seemed to go nowhere.
Right.
But sitting with the hard feelings, you have to
Yeah.
acknowledge that that's not weakness. It
Right.
actually gives you your power back because the moment you say this hurts,
Yeah.
you make space for the healing
Yeah.
and for help, right? So
Right.
I carried a mantra: you're allowed to feel everything and still fight for everything.
Right. Which is
So
such a
if
great,
you
that's
want,
such a great approach. Yeah.
yeah, so you may have that. You can have that mantra. Anybody who needs it can have that mantra.
They heard it
So
here.
once you, yeah, you heard it here first, folks. I'll be here all week. So once you acknowledge that,
Yeah.
now you're ready
Yeah.
almost to start. And the second pillar is starting with the can do,
Hmm.
right? We spend so much time documenting the defaults, the defects, the problems that we forget to celebrate the strengths.
Yeah.
And uh, when I stopped walking into George's IEP meetings with a list of problems
Hmm.
instead of here's what George does well,
Right.
and the entire energy in the room changed, right? You're focusing on the positive. This is what my child does well.
Right.
And it you have to start with something small. It doesn't matter what it is. Oh my
Right.
God, he didn't wear his pants during the night. Or this is what George said, the number 3 today. It's
Yes.
all win. You have to celebrate the wins.
Yeah.
The third pillar, and this is important, you do not have to be an attorney to do this, but you must know the rules.
Yes.
Okay, you must educate yourself on what your child is entitled to.
Hmm.
I ran into so many parents who would walk into a meeting saying, my child is not reaching their potential. Well, guess what? In the United States, that's not the Board of Education's job to help your child, any child, reach their
It's not.
potential.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
their edict is to give every child a free, appropriate public education.
Education. Yep.
And appropriate is the key word.
Hmm.
And once you stop tapping into the emotions. So you have to know, I mean, really, you're in these meetings, emotions are not your friend when you're
Right.
doing this. You are fighting for your child.
Hmm.
And so you want to be comfortable with basic IEP, basic 504. So 504 Act is geared toward kids who maybe not as involved
Hmm.
as
Right.
our children and just need a little support, but you have to know that that's available to
Right.
you as well. So I know there's a lot of movement toward integrating the kids into the regular classrooms, and I was pushed toward that. My son was so involved. There was no inclusion.
Right.
It wasn't conducive to education for anybody, especially for George.
Right.
So knowing what your child is capable of, knowing
Right.
what they do well, and the situations that are going to set them off, you have to remember you are the expert on your child. No
Right.
one else. You're the expert.
Right.
You're living with them. Whether you gave birth or not, that's your child, right?
Right.
You know what kind of mood they wake up in the morning, and you know what's going to set them off. You know what's going to happen. Well, sometimes you don't know what's going to happen when they walk
Right.
in the door, but you
Right.
know,
You're right.
as
Yeah.
much as more than anyone else would know, you're
Right.
the expert. And so
Right.
you are the instructor, you're the advocate. Very important to always request evaluations in writing
Yes.
because, as you know, you go to the doctor, you bring somebody with you, right? Or you bring a note taker because it's very easy to get caught up in the moment. You try to
Yes.
take everything in, but we're always going to miss something, right?
Right.
So get it in writing. Here's some really weird advice that you might not think about. Write a thank you note. It will actually put
Interesting.
people off. Yes, it will set people off their pedestal.
Yeah.
They don't think about it. So my newbie mistake was always demanding, demanding, demanding. I was so headstrong
Right.
that once I learned to actually say thank you
Yeah.
for even the littlest accommodation or the smallest thing, the game changed.
Yeah.
didn't.
I've noticed that just saying it, even saying it, I've said that to Drayton in Drayson's IEP meetings. I've said, thank you for all your hard work. I appreciate you. And it does shift their demeanor, but I love the idea of writing a thank you note. That's amazing. That's a great idea.
Right. And
Yeah.
then you put them on your team, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's an us. It's not us versus them. It's
Right.
how can we best do
Come
what
to, yeah.
what our child needs.
Right.
The resistance softens a little. How can we? You're putting them on your team. You're the
Yeah.
team captain, you're the expert, and the more informed and
Yeah.
calm you are, the more power you have.
Yeah.
Because I could have gone in there screaming and crying, and where does that
Oh, yeah.
get you?
Right. Oh, and I
Absolutely.
have. I mean,
Of course.
there's a few IEP meetings where I'm sure I looked, or I know I looked. It's not even I'm sure. I know I looked like the crazy mom because it's just you let your emotions take over. And I've had to tell parents, like, it's hard to describe, but almost like I've tried to lean into some of those feelings because it has made me a stronger advocate. Just like you're saying, like, I'm just trying to feel what I need to feel, but at the same time, I'm trying to also advocate effectively. So there's this weird balance of acknowledging it, leaning into it, but then also detaching from it a little bit so that I can effectively advocate. That has always been kind of and I don't know what the combination or the formula for that is. It's just something that I felt like I've experienced. Like you said, I can only speak from my own experience, right? But I think that I could then separate my emotion a little bit and say, okay, this is what I have to focus on for him. This is what needs to get done. And,
Right.
and advocacy work is no joke. Even just,
Yeah. No.
I always, I do a lot of advocacy work talking with people and helping people and it's no joke. And you're dealing with so much more than just the nuts and bolts of what actually has to get done. That human emotion that you're describing, it's so strong. And, but I love how you bring that perspective of bring them into your team, write the thank you note, let them know that even if it's just the smallest of accommodations. So now, did George go to? Was he in public school, or was he in a specialty school at all growing up, or what path did that lead you down?
We started out in public school.
Yeah.
In fact, we started out in the English as a second language classroom
Okay.
because we didn't know any better. The
Right.
teachers thought, well, he'll just pick up English. And one day I got a call. He's not picking up English. He's not picking up anything. He's not speaking anything. And the teacher brought me in and said, I think there's something else
Going
going
on.
on.
Yeah.
So we started him out in the special needs classroom. But George is extraordinarily disruptive. I remember days going to pick him up at school, and the teacher would be literally carrying him out of the school with his legs. He was just flailing.
Oh gosh.
And because, like, I have to take that home.
Yeah.
That's
Where's the after
like,
school
why did you
program?
call me? Yeah.
I know. Is
Why
this
did you
child
call
mine?
me?
Does
Yeah.
he belong to me? I don't know who this child belongs to. I'm just kidding.
Call me when he calms down,
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
but we eventually ended up in a dedicated special needs
Yeah.
school. In fact, there were two that served him very well.
Yeah.
And I accidentally ended up in a town in New Jersey that was known for special needs. I didn't know I was ever going to access it. But what the come to Jesus moment was, I wasn't getting the services I needed in the district. And I thought, is
Mm-hmm.
this the best we got? And
Right.
then the light dawned. I was like, oh no, it's not about being the best we've got. Is that I have a severely
Right.
disabled child. And not only is he intellectually compromised, he's violent, he's emotionally compromised, he's physically had all kinds of weird things going on that, George would get things nobody ever had. He had scarlet fever. Who gets scarlet fever
Oh my gosh.
anymore in America? So he was so unique and
Right.
and so involved that he had to access out of district placement. And that
Yeah.
actually saved our lives.
Yeah. That's how I feel about where Drayson is today too. He was originally in public school. Now he's in a private school specifically for, kids with autism and neurodivergency. And I just, I think at first my initial reaction was I was a little nervous or worried about it because I didn't want him to be like categorized in this one area and labeled and all of these things. I wanted him to be able to integrate and peer model and learn from his peers and all of these things. But I realized that the peer modeling in public school was stressing him out. It was
Yeah.
stressing him out to the point where he wasn't receptive to anything. And now it's like when we go to his school, I mean, he's waving hi to everybody. They're saying hi to him. I mean, it's just so nice to be in a community where everything is so well accepted, where he's at. And that I realized that the second I put him there within the first 2 weeks, I was like, this was the biggest game changer. I can't believe I didn't do this sooner, you know?
Yeah.
It goes back to that state of denial. I just think, oh, the delay. Oh, he'll catch up, or oh, he'll get the peer modeling that he needs, or oh, he'll improve and we'll be okay. And that was a really harsh reality, especially when I had to start looking at other schools because I knew it just wasn't the right place for him.
It's interesting though, once you adjust your expectations,
Yeah.
the little things become so much better,
Oh, they
right? The little
absolutely.
progress.
Yeah, 100%. I would agree with that. 100%. It's so true. It's like you have to almost let that part go completely. You know, we're talking all about the advocacy, for our children and maintaining our own physical and emotional well-being. Right. That's the hard part. And I have the last maybe 3 to 4 years of this journey with Drayson, for me personally, I have very much intensely worked on that aspect for myself and for my family. But, do you have any, words of wisdom on, how parents can balance between the advocacy and their mental and emotional well-being? Right.
Oh
Do you have
boy.
any advice for that?
Respite, respite, respite.
Yeah. Yes.
You know,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
what turned the tide for me was I had the TV on one day and there was Dr. Phil. And remember Dr. Phil?
Yes.
And he
Yes.
said, you cannot give from an empty cup.
Yep.
And that day I signed up for decorative painting classes because it resonated. You cannot drain yourself and have anything left to give.
Right.
So even if you feel guilty about taking care of yourself, it's not about you.
Right.
It's about your ability to take care of your family.
Right.
And the moment you realize that you're not begging for things, you're not asking for favors, you're
Mm-hmm.
demanding what you need. And
Mm-hmm.
what you need is to get out of the house, take a
Yes.
walk, take a meditation class, learn how to breathe.
Yeah.
I scared my meditation teacher because I would come in class ready to calm the hell down, and this poor stupid priest would choke him every time. I'm ready to calm down, and he would just back away slowly. Eventually, I learned not to scare him so much, but
Yeah.
it was it was life altering
Yeah.
because once you actually step back a little, and by the way, those resources try to hide from
Mm-hmm.
you. I had a caseworker at the state who would say, "How did you find out about this? Is this a state secret? Am I dealing with the FBI, CIA? What's going on here?" And I had state workers fight me every step of the way.
Yep.
Uh, After school care at the ARC. Oh, I called her and I said, I know that George is next on the list. How did you find that out? "Ah, really? Well, the
Yeah.
ARC told me that George is next on the list. Oh, but we have 50 pages of paperwork. Let me have it." She had
Send
that
it.
paperwork back. Yeah, she had her paperwork back on her desk the next day because, frankly, she didn't want to do her job.
Right.
And every recorded message ended with, "May you have a blessed day." Well, I can't say here what I said to that recording in response.
Sure you can. Just,
Yeah, no. Oh, it was ugly.
yeah.
But you really have to go to battle for yourself.
Yeah.
And if your spouse won't do it, you have to find an outside source, grandparents, someone. I had the unfortunate experience of having my in-laws be in denial
Mm-hmm.
and did not acknowledge that George was actually having special needs issues, which I found kind of funny.
Right.
But that meant that they were not going to go out of their way to make accommodation for us.
Right.
So that made it harder. But I didn't stop because I knew that
Right.
if I went down, the whole ship would sink.
Everything would go. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And
And
the other
it,
thing, what goes hand in hand with that, not to interrupt you,
no,
but
you're
what
fine.
goes hand in hand in that is forming a team, even if it's other parents, taking
Mm-hmm.
turns and doing things. You don't have to do it yourself. No one expects you to be a martyr.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to do it alone.
Yeah.
So you have to find your tribe. And
Yeah.
here's the crazy counterintuitive piece of advice. When you can be that support for someone else,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's just saying, I see you, I acknowledge you, you're not alone, be that for someone else.
Right.
Because you never know what that person is going through. And I always believe that the experiences I was having were
Mm-hmm.
maybe not meant for me.
Right.
Maybe the way I handled the situation was meant for someone watching me,
Right.
right? So even though I wasn't really good at it, in fact, I was
Right.
pretty poor at it. I tried to handle the situations with grace because I thought, what if someone else is going through this and they
Yeah.
need to see me survive it,
Yeah.
right? What if
Yeah.
they're hanging on by the same thread I'm hanging on by?
Right.
So,
And when you start talking with people, you start to realize that. It's
yeah,
you realize like you're not on this lone island, and they realize that too. Because I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with parents where they say that to me, you know. I was feeling the same way. I didn't think that anybody else felt that way because they're keeping it here because of maybe they don't feel like they have that support from their in-laws or from, friends and family, or having to try to explain it so that then you do get those people on board because it's just exhausting. So there's this shutdown felt like that just happened with me where I wasn't always saying that, in the beginning. And my care team, my tribe, I would not be able to do half of what I do for Drayson if I did not have that care team in place, and very selectively picking that care team for Drayson.
and look at you. You
Yeah,
have a team. That's awesome.
I love it.
So your regular friends kind of back away slowly
Yes,
because they get exhausted
they do.
from being
Yep.
empathetic towards you. So you lose your social outlets,
Yes,
your
you do.
normal social outlets.
Yep.
And yeah, so you have to find new paths. I never
Yeah.
wanted to join a support group because I thought I don't really want to wallow in it. I don't want to hear anyone
Yeah.
else's problems. In hindsight, I think maybe that was a little foolish
Yeah.
because we would all lift each other. But when I was just entrenched in it, and I hope other people don't make that same mistake,
Yeah.
I didn't want to talk about it
Right. Yeah.
because I didn't feel I didn't want to whine at
Mm-hmm.
anybody else. I didn't want to go into that poor me mode.
Right.
And I just felt like I don't want to absorb anybody else's
Right.
problems. I'm just so overwhelmed. But looking back, I
Yeah.
maybe wish I had done something like that because I needed more of a team.
Right. Right. And
That,
I had the same. It wasn't until much later I started getting into support groups. In the beginning, I had the same. I had joined a few, and my issue, for lack of better words, with it was that I didn't want to feed into the negative mindset that I was already kind of in, trying to battle that, trying to, you know, filter my emotions and figure out how I felt about the situation. And so I would hear others talk and almost sound like they were complaining, and I was like, I can't hear this any more of this. I'm already feeling it on my own. I didn't want to take on any more. And so I agree with what you're saying. I think, I always tell people, if you can find a good, positive, supportive group, it's okay to vent, but if you can find that supportive, positive group to be there for you, that is one of the most amazing things that you can do for yourself. I mean, my care team, I wouldn't, like I said, would not be able to do half of what we do for Drayson if I did not have my care team installed. I mean, he's got full services, he's got respite, HAB, he has outside speech, OT. Like, we used to say, our family says he's one of the hardest working kids and he doesn't know it because of his structure and his schedule and what he does. But I wouldn't be able to do any of that if I didn't have my providers at all,
yeah,
you know? And
exactly.
allowing them to do that. I think asking for help is one of the hardest things to do, like we were talking about. It took me a long time to figure out how to ask for help, you know?
But that is not a sign of weakness.
Yeah. No.
Asking for help is actually a sign of courage
Yes.
because you're
Yeah.
taking the bull by the horns and saying, I can't do this alone.
Right.
So that is probably the most important message that
Yes.
we want to get out to parents.
Yeah.
Ask for help. Throw back the mantle of shame. Forget that.
Yeah.
Because we're not getting anywhere with that, right? We're just not.
Well,
So
it was one of the greatest things once I started learning that it was okay to ask for help and I started feeling comfortable asking for help. It wasn't just for Drayson, it was for me. It was probably one of the most comforting things for me because I knew that, okay, I'm getting people in place. I'm getting some more answers, like things are opening up conversations. And because I gave that omission of, basically I'm coming to you for your expertise or I need the help. And so I think when you do that, it's also very freeing. You realize like, oh, okay, it is okay. And okay, I can explore this a little bit more, and
I
it,
think the
it, it helped to empower me a little bit once I got past the asking for help, right? Once I started asking for help, it really helped to empower me to continue to research more, make more decisions, help Drayson more.
so what someone said to me a long time ago, and it turned the whole thing on its head, is when someone offers to help you and you deny them, you're denying them a gift.
Yeah.
When someone wants to help you are giving them a gift by allowing them to help you. So
Yeah.
not to get all haughty about it, but you've
Yeah.
offered, I'm sure you've offered someone help and they're like, no, I got it. And you feel a little off put,
Yeah.
right?
You want to be able to help
So,
that person. Yeah. Makes total sense.
so come on, take it.
Yeah. Like,
I'll let you.
okay. Okay. What do you want to do? Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
well, before we, end this episode today, I just wanted to ask you, what are some of the most profound lessons that you've learned about resilience, love, and perseverance through your parenting journey with George? And then, of course, I just want to talk quickly about the book too. But what are some of the most profound lessons that you feel like you've learned throughout the years with George? I know
Oh,
that's a
so
loaded
many.
question. I know.
That is a loaded question. I
Yeah.
think the first thing that I learned was in raising George that really I could have sent him back to Romania. I could
Mm-hmm.
have aborted the adoption. But the most important thing I learned was what am I teaching my other child?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want your child to learn that people are expendable and when it gets inconvenient, you just get rid of them?
When it gets hard, yeah.
And so I think that was for me a huge lesson because yes, I had the option and
Mm-hmm.
crossed my mind for a minute. But I would never do that because number one, I know that if I had sent George back to Romania, he would most likely have been dead long ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so loving George through all of this
Mm-hmm.
has taught me that there is a deep well. There,
Yeah.
when you think you've run out of love, you don't.
Right.
Even though I didn't give birth to George, the moment I laid eyes on him, he was my child.
Right.
And the fact is that I would have gone through any fire for him, and I still will.
Yeah.
So um, I think the resilience just comes from being a mother and just
Yeah.
pushing, and I would not be told no.
Yeah.
So when you
Yeah.
think you're out of steam and you gather that last bit,
Yeah.
usually it always happens when I finally give myself over to the result I don't want to happen. That's
Right.
when God goes, oh no, I've got you.
Yeah.
And I was actually driving to the psych ward to pick up George to take him home after this extraordinarily violent outburst. So he'd been in the psych ward for a couple of weeks. I was working with the state agencies. I had figured out a solution for a
Mm-hmm.
respite home. And they were saying, no, we can't do it. No, we can't do it. No, we can't do it. And I was in my car driving to the hospital, sobbing,
Mm-hmm.
wondering, how am I going to keep this violent child in my home when my
Yeah.
cell phone rang? And it
Right.
was the social workers. They said, we figured it out. I was like, freaking frack. I figured it out months
Yeah.
ago. But,
Yeah.
salvation always comes at the last moment.
The Hail
And
Mary. Yeah. It's like,
it
yeah.
was a Hail Mary. And
Yeah.
it happens to me so many times. Like, are you testing me?
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
you
Down to the
just have
wire.
to, so you have to have faith in the process. You have
Yeah.
to have faith. And if you are a person who believes in a higher power,
Yes. Absolutely.
you have to rely on that and you have to give it
Mm-hmm.
over to God and can't take it back. If you believe
Yeah.
in God, if you believe in karma, if you believe in the universe,
Yeah.
because you give it over and you have to
Yeah.
just trust.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've said that before, something very similar to people as well. It's the surrendering. It's the aspect of surrendering it to whatever your belief is, to source, to God, to universe, whatever your belief system is. I think that, spiritually, I've had to do a lot of surrendering with my journey with Drayson. And it is, when you give it to God and you let go of it, it is absolutely amazing, the things that can start to unfold and the answers that start to come through. It's almost like I realized I was fighting it almost too much. Sometimes when you fight things too much, the result doesn't happen, right? And then you get frustrated. And then that caused more resentment and anger and all of these other emotions. But when I just finally said, you gotta take that. Just take it from me. And I surrendered that. It just opened up so much for me. And that's what I was kind of referring to. The last 3-4 years, I've been highly, focused on my spirituality and energy work and all of these things. And it has been so unbelievably amazing for me because it's also opened my eyes to more possibilities for Drayson. And I would have never discovered that if I had gone down that route, Yeah. So go ahead.
The hardest thing for me is to try not to take it back.
I know, right?
Give it. No, let me handle it. No, I can't. So that has been a great lesson. Don't take it back. Give it up to God's spirit, whatever. Leave it there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. I absolutely love that. So before we end the show today, I want people to know where they can get your book. Your book is this beautiful book. If you guys have not picked, for those of you listening and even those of you watching today on YouTube, I'm going to hold up the book here. It's called When the Bow Breaks. It is such an amazing book. And I was so moved by you, Nancy. I mean, just so moved. And so tell our listeners how they can find the book, if they want to reach out to you, how they can get in contact with you, because I want to make sure. And also for our listeners today, we'll post all of Nancy's information in the show notes. But go ahead and tell them where they can find your book.
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever books are sold.
Okay.
I do have a QR code that I can send you.
Perfect. Yeah. We can put it up. Yeah, we can absolutely put that up. So
and contact information for me, I will absolutely send. You have my contact information.
Yeah.
So
and we can list it. We'll list it all in show notes, and you'll be able to find Nancy on her website. And also, I think we have your social media channels. So we'll go ahead and put that in the show notes for our listeners today. Nancy, thank you so much for your time and energy. And thank you for this book. I mean, honestly, truly, thank you for this book. And thank you for, also helping parents to realize that they're not alone, that there's a lot to this journey, but it's an amazing journey if you allow it to be one. So thank you so much for this work of art that you produced here, When the Bow Breaks.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. You're so welcome. This concludes our episode for today. If you have questions, comments, or even a show topic that you would like to hear about, please feel free to send me an email at info@piecesformypuzzle.com. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram if you have not done so already, or feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. If you like what you're hearing, please spread the word so that we can continue to empower neurodivergent families. And feel free to give us a good rating on your preferred podcast platform of choice. Thanks again for tuning in. And until next time, keep working on your puzzle. And remember, you don't have to have it all solved in a day. Take care.